Hey good people, Batavia here. So welcome to my Chicago garden. We have made it to June, mid-June in fact, and I still feel like there's plenty to plant. Specifically, plenty to plant for summer enjoyment. All right, so I have some things that I've already gotten into the garden, like my main crop of tomatoes, my main crop of peppers, but I'm still planting some of those things as well. In addition to my summer squash, which hasn't been planted, hasn't even been started yet, there's some other things that I want to kind of direct sow in the garden that again are going to be enjoyed during the summer season. When I kind of think about June, it may be the most important month in my garden because while I'm rounding out things for summer, I am also thinking about what I want to plant and grow for the fall. We're not going to spend that much time yet on this one, but I just want to sow that seed. Consider what's going to go into your garden in a couple of months to enjoy later this year. All right, so let's start with the longest. Pole beans, sweet potatoes, the time is clicking. Winter squash, you may be on the cusp of that being a tinge too late. I'm doing a honey nut squash this year. That's a smaller squash compared to like your butternut squash. So I feel pretty good about still dropping a transplant in if you have those. Pole beans, get them sown. This is a time where your days are going to start to get shorter in just a couple of weeks. Actually, I think once this video is released, we kind of hit that summer equinox. So the daylight hours start to shorten. And pole beans are a good example of something that takes longer to produce. Sweet potatoes, I have a few plants behind me in that Vego garden bed up against the garage that I planted. But my main area that I'm planting sweet potatoes, I'm literally going to do that today. So today is June 15th for the record. You'll see this in about a week. I still think that there's time, but you kind of got to get them in. And there is this question, and we talk about this on the Backyard Gardens podcast, as to whether or not sweet potatoes really belong in the north as far as growing. I do it, so there's that. But sweet potatoes, any type of winter squash, pole beans, those are the things that if you want to grow those particular varieties, get them in the garden now. There's some other things that we have more time for. So bush beans are a great example. I've sown bush beans as late as July and ended up getting one harvest off of them. I can look up the train schedules, but I can never get the plane schedules right. That's the level set when it comes to Chicago weather and kind of how summer is just barely getting started. It's 55 degrees Fahrenheit right now. We had a low of 53. Still have some nights that are going to be in the 50s. I think the 50s, generally speaking, especially for a plant that's established, that's had some time in the soil, I think that that's fine. Corn. Planted corn a handful of times. Last year was the most successful. I think I have a short video that I can link here, and I didn't get those transplanted into the garden until like June 20 something, and so that's going to be the story this year as well. They'll be going into the garden pretty soon. There's a whole adage, knee high by the 4th of July. That won't be my story for my corn, but I still feel good about it. If you have pepper plants left, which I do, get them into your garden, get them into your raised beds. I'm going to be planting them out in some of my containers that I have. You really want to get those situated. Again, in my area, the heat is just starting to pick up in the coming weeks. So I still feel good about getting them planted and being able to get a harvest off of them, especially your larger peppers. So like your bell peppers that are going to produce a larger pepper itself. You really want to get those planted. I'm going to drop some tomatoes. Determinate variety tomatoes are probably going to be the best at this time, or a cherry tomato. But that's not going to stop me from, if I have a couple of starts and some space, from planting an indeterminate tomato, with the understanding of I'm really going to probably be harvesting mostly green tomatoes. If I think about a transplant going in, let's say mid-June, really getting settled, we're starting to grow in July, August, September, that's 90 days. We're going to start cooling off here then. So at that time, it's really going to be whatever fruit's on the plant, it's on the plant. So keep that in mind. There's plenty of time, though, to plant things like bush beans. Plenty of time to get some herbs in, even from seed, like basil. If you have mint transplants, mint's going to go wild. Recommendation, put it into a container to try to tame it. Have time to get things into the garden. I want to encourage you to think about what you really are going to enjoy, what you really want to see take off in your garden. And this is also a good time to experiment. I only know that I can grow corn if I plant it in the third week of June, because I've planted corn in the third week of June. All right, so asterisk sweet corn, because time frames do vary depending on the type of vegetable you're planting. So I still have almost all of my containers that need to get planted out. And that's actually one of the benefits of growing in containers. For me, I feel like you're able to get things into the containers and they can take off a little bit sooner than sometimes you have things in raised beds. I know you may have a different experience, and that's okay. But this is also a time when you think about filling in spaces. So I'm going to go around and take a look at what's in the garden. We're going to chat about what we plan on planting where. And we're going to try to get some of that work done this week. We're also on the lookout for creatures. It's 6:48, and I feel like this should be a safe time for things like raccoons to not visit the garden, but I've been proven wrong time and time again, so there's that. All right, let's dig in. Okie doke, so some of these things in the garden are still a work in progress, and that's okay. One of the tips that I have is, if you have, let's say, the next week and a half, you want to focus on getting your garden planted or finish planting your garden out, take one of those days and basically get the area prepared. So this area here was a weed-filled mess. They were starting to climb the fence here. But I spent some time on Saturday focused on getting this area cleared. And all I need to do now is add a bit more soil, bit of compost, and fertilizer. That's my formula for my containers, especially if I've already grown in them. I'm going to drop my pepper plants in here. I'll add some labels as well, some refresh labels. Okay, doke, so let's take a beat, compare some notes, share where you're gardening in the comments and what you're planting in June, early parts of July that really takes off for your summer garden. I kind of think back and I say, oh, I've had all of these preconceived notions about how to garden, when to garden, and sometimes you really just have to kind of test what the experts say. All right, we're going to continue. The new Vego trellis this is the 4th year, I think, that I've been growing in this bed. The sweet potatoes have perked up. I have some pole beans here, cucumber plants that are starting to reach for the trellis. Other thing that you can continue to plant out, cucumbers. I don't think I mentioned that. These are less than a week old. Basically, we have cucumbers that are going to, I think this is my 3rd sowing of them. This would be my 2nd sowing of cucumbers. And then I have my original sowing of cucumbers in the front yard garden. So my lettuce has tapped out for the season, and I am going to replant in this area. This is the elevated Vego garden bed. 1st year growing in it, love it already. So I pulled this space. This is the plan. I was going to have this space open up. I am considering direct sowing some carrots. I'm trying to think about the best way to take advantage of this space in particular, given that it's right here at standing level. So that's the consideration. My main area of carrots is in that 4x4 space. And then let's take a quick look. This is the main area that I'm growing peppers in this year. Got some eggplants in the middle. And I also have to keep in mind spaces that are going to open up within the next month or two. So the onion bed is definitely going to open up probably more like August. So this would be a fall planted space. Now I've been back and forth basically all season long on what to plant in this space. And I've had summer squash on my mind. I only need a couple of plants, a yellow squash, a zucchini, and that pretty well. I also love the white scallop squash. So maybe this becomes a squash bed. I also have some containers like this that are the perfect size to plant something like a summer squash. And then I also have those grow bags we'll take a look at in just a few. But summer squash is for sure something you can direct sow, or if you have transplants, although some people recommend against transplanting them, I've had success with it. You can get them transplanted into the garden in June, even going into July. But I do want to show you some other areas we haven't talked about this season. I knew we were going to get quite a bit of rain, so I separated the tiers of this green stalk so they can really get saturated with some good rainwater. And I want to add just a bit of compost, again fertilizer, get those planted out. This is another area. This was just, I had to poke around before I walked past this area. It was so weedy. But again, that time I spent with the buckets on Saturday, I also spent time here clearing this space, getting an idea of what the soil was like, how I'll be amending it, and I'm going to get that planted out this week as well. This is 20 gallons for grow bags, and this is just, I think it's called welded wire that you get from your home improvement stores, and I use it in a few different applications in the garden. And these are things that I've scavenged, popular soda brand. I've scavenged these from various stores, and I use them to prop up some of my containers because I don't want them sitting directly on the soil or directly on, in this case, the concrete. So that's just a method that I've come accustomed to. And for this size of a grow bag, it makes it easier for me to pull it. I can actually hook up a little anchor and drag the container like away from the porch if I needed to, which I'm hoping to because I need to get some work done on the porch. Alrighty, so this is a store-bought sweet potato that I am growing slips for, and then the other sweet potatoes that I mentioned. This is from the Beauregard. I started these slips. You could see the roots there. I like to actually put my slips in soil and then transplant them, but I don't want to spend that time on those at this point. I have a few that are already set up like that. So basically, again, kind of last call is what we're approaching. We're going to get these transplanted into the garden. I haven't done a count, but I feel like I'll have enough sweet potato slips to fill out the areas that I plan on putting them in. These are beans that I started indoors just 7 days ago. And so when I came back, like on the 5th day, I brought them outside. Most of them had already germinated, but I knew I needed to get them into the garden soon. This is a scarlet runner bean. And as I anticipated, the ones I direct sowed, as far as I can tell, those that have come up have been eaten. So I want to be able to transplant something like this that has some height with the hope that it will continue to grow and start to trellis up the new trellis I have in the front yard flower bed, which I'm excited about. Actually, let's go into the front yard and take a look out there. All right, so we still have a little bit of work to do. This is the last group of containers that I need to work up, weed, and basically get soil worked up. But these are only 5 gallon, so it's going to be pretty easy work. And these will be the last of the pepper plants. I was trying to figure out last week what I was going to do, but based on my timing, I'm going to do the corn here, which again, the starts are still inside. But we're going to basically wait for this broccoli to come out, and then I'll put the corn here. I keep forgetting to share this new experiment. This is the original Cage Baby's door. I spray painted it black just for aesthetic purposes, and I have a container where the bottom is cut out because there's so much, kind of wood matter here. I knew what would happen if I basically planted the beans directly into the soil, so I tried to create a barrier, which so far looks good. I just wanted to avoid digging here. So again, this is one of those applications of that wire that I use. Eventually I'll just take that off. And so I had 5 beans. One of them didn't quite make it, but the 4 should be plenty to go in here and grow up. We'll see how they do. This is just, again, me playing around with the space. My other tomatoes, these are smaller. This is a shadier spot in the garden. I've grown tomatoes here before and had success, so I feel good about them. These were just transplanted 2 weeks ago, and they were the same size as this. Basically, all of my tomatoes this year have been this size. One other crop that I want to make sure I mention, if you can find some okra transplants, this is a great time to get okra into the garden. It loves the heat that we're headed for, and it's ready to take off as soon as you get planted. So this was transplanted a bit ago, but it hasn't grown as much as it will in the coming weeks, just based on the change in temperature. As a quick update, super pleased. strawberries from the green stalk. They're doing really well. So I transplanted my honey nut squash on 5/31, and we've gotten some new growth. They've not taken off yet, but I'm anticipating they will. Melons are probably the only thing I hadn't spoken on yet. I'm no authority on melons, but I do feel like I've grown them over the years, tried to get them planted in June, like around this time of year, and had some trouble with them actually producing and more specifically maturing on the vine for those that require that. Cantaloupe, if you find a plant, I'd say give that a go. There are other things like watermelons, like maybe a smaller variety watermelon would probably be just fine getting into the garden now. Your longer 100+ days, I'd be a little bit careful around whether or not you want to commit and dedicate space to that given the time of year we're in. So my street side flower bed, this is the new trellis. It's going to be so lovely. I just need to get the beans going, right? So I direct sow beans over here. I've been checking since I've been back. Nothing's come up on that side, or if it has, it's been eaten. I definitely see, yeah, so that is a bean plant that's been eaten up. And another here, where you can see the leaves have been eaten. But given that I already have some starts in the backyard, I'm going to transplant a couple of those in, see how they survive, because I basically only have those that are in those seed starting cells. So I need to make sure that they are able to take off. Otherwise, I'll have to resort to something else in this space. And I'm not sure what that would be, but at this point in the season. Okie doke, so I'd love to hear from y'all on if you have experience getting things started in June and where you are, because that's super important. I appreciate y'all spending some time with me. Feel free to drop any questions or comments below, and I look forward to seeing y'all on the next one.